What problems are you dealing with in your life right now?
Do you feel like giving up? Times are hard and you're not strong. Well, I know the answer for you, and it will lead to real truth. Don't look back to yesterday.
Now there are answers.
Tomorrow's on
Welcome
the
to
way.
Live Prayer.
It's waiting there for you.
Here's your host.
And welcome to Live Prayer. I'm Bill Keller. Good to be with you on this Wednesday night. Pray it was a good day for you. Good to be back with you. And you are watching Live Prayer. If you've just somehow come across the program, we are here live and in living color every Monday through Friday from 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern Daylight Time. We're in daylight time. And it's good to have you with me. Wherever you are across this great land of ours. Sea to shining sea, border to becoming a border. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And for our friends in other far-off lands, welcome to you as well. I'm Bill Keller, founder of LivePrayer.com, world's largest interactive Christian website. Reach a little over 2.5 million folks every day via the internet. Web address on your screen, LivePrayer.com. Please go check it out. Nothing to sell you when you get there. No advertising to bother you when you get there. Just nearly 21 years of incredibly unique ministry content, all available to be a blessing to you and to minister to you and to inspire you and to encourage you. I'm just writing myself a quick note here because I got to be honest with you. And you know what? I got to tell you something. This has never changed for me. I want to say, I'm getting a little older, need to jot a few things down, but that's always been me because there's so many things going on. Thank you, website content. So please check everything out at liveprayer.com. If you don't get the daily devotional, go to the resource tab, click on the daily devotional link. There's a sign up there. It's free, like everything at Live Prayer. It'll be in your email every morning. A little over 2.5 million folks around the world get that every morning. About a 3 to 5 minute read. Great way to start your day. And of course, this TV program, I want to welcome not only our main audience on liveprayer.com, but we also have a wonderful audience in our simulcast at Roku, on our Live Prayer Church channel on Roku. Welcome to you folks. Welcome to our friends watching on our live simulcast on our Live Prayer Facebook, Twitter, YouTube pages. Welcome to you folks as well. Always good to have you aboard. And of course, it's on our Live Prayer Facebook, YouTube, Roku, or Facebook, Twitter, YouTube pages. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Those three places. We have all of our previous programs available for on-demand viewing. So if you miss a program, want to rewatch one, a lot of people, this isn't a convenient hour to watch us live. They just catch up as they're able to. Some people binge it on the weekend. But you can find all of the old programs available for on-demand viewing on our Live Prayer YouTube, Facebook, Twitter pages. Okay? What else do I need to tell you? That's it. Let's have a word of prayer. We got a lot of talk. Boy, was it. I got to tell you something. Let me just give you a little inside scoop. Last night, Tuesday, I had all kinds of things that I was going to talk to you about, but right before the program started, God said, you know what? I want you to really share your heart about the coronavirus issue and about the election. Election's important because it's going to determine whether we have Christian-friendly officials heading up our government for another 4 years. Makes a lot of difference, especially as we're talking about reclassifying the big social media giants who control all of the speech content now, pretty much. Of course, the whole coronavirus is, we know what that is. And as we're going to discuss in just a minute, I told you last night that I believe in my heart of hearts, we're on the other side of coronavirus. Yet, we haven't seen the full force of what it is yet, so it's going to look bad in the coming days. Boy, was that, and I'm claiming no prophetic utterances, but boy, let me just say, That was about as prophetic as you can get. If you didn't watch last night's program, just go watch last night's program. It's worth the hour. Even if you don't want to spend the whole hour, spend the first 20, 30 minutes I talked about coronavirus, because I told you last night, I believe we're on the other side. In other words, it's going to start, the worst is over. But it's like a chain reaction. We haven't seen it yet. It hasn't materialized yet, because it's like a slow motion crash. You know what the result is, but you still have to see the crash, experience the crash, but you already know how it ends. And we're going to get into it just a minute. Boy, if that wasn't prophetic as all get out, because it looks bad tonight, doesn't it? I told you it would. So let's pray and let's get into the program. Father, thank you for this evening. Thank you for the time together. Thank you for our dear friends who are part of this program tonight. Lord, tonight I lift you up, and I lift up this day that wasn't promised to us, but was a gift from you. Thank you for this day. We are excited that we are focusing this year on every day and how special it is, how unique it is, how precious it is, because it's not promised to us. It's a gift from you. So, Lord, I thank you for our friends here tonight. I lift up them and their families to pray for the needs that they represent. Thank you for all your many blessings. And, Lord, tonight we do pray for our nation as we are in the grips of this worldwide epidemic of the coronavirus, COVID-19. We're in the grips of that right now, but, Lord, you will see us through. You're still on your throne, sitting high, looking low, never taking a break, but always having your eyes on your children. And Lord, tonight I pray we find our hope and faith in you. So we thank you again for this time together tonight. Ask that you open our hearts to receive from you now, and we ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, let me just start with this whole coronavirus, because again, big Oval Office, address the nation, 9 o'clock, all the networks carry it, this big deal, right? To be blunt with you, I don't know what more the government could really be doing at this point in terms of taking these measures. I mean, I know they shut down travel to all Europe except England for 30 days. I know they've got a bunch of they've already passed an $8.3 billion financial package to help states and local governments with this crisis. I know there's more financial relief that they're looking at for individuals, because this is not only a health crisis, but it's turning into a financial crisis. Part of the frustration is that we didn't start this, so we didn't have control of it. It's affecting so much of the rest of the world, it still makes our ability to control it tenuous at best, just because, I mean, we have 330 million people. We have a very open society, a free flow of people for the most part. And it really, our freedoms are what also make a very unique crisis like this so potentially devastating. But let me reiterate again what I told you last night. I believe, and I may be proven wrong, and I'll be the first to admit it, I believe we're on the other side of this. What do I mean by that? I think whatever the damage is, it's already been done. It all hasn't materialized yet. That's why I clearly told you last night, just because I'm telling you we're on the other side of this, please understand, we haven't seen the byproducts of all the damage yet, okay? So while we are on the other side of this I believe, in terms of the damage that is being done, I think We've experienced the damage. We just haven't, it hasn't been all manifested yet. I hope I'm making that clear enough. It hasn't manifested yet. And that's why last night I told you, be prepared because it's going to look really bad. It's going to get really ugly. Well, hours after I uttered those words, yep, it got ugly. Another 1,400 points on the Dow today. We'll talk about the financial side of this in a minute, but more cases being reported here, more cases around the world, more people dying. Now we've got a zone of quarantine to some extent around New Rochelle, New York, just New York, north of New York City, Washington State. Haven't heard much about Washington in the last 24 hours, which means to tell me that they might be getting a handle on this, and the damage that was primarily done in that one nursing home is pretty much behind us, and that's why you're not seeing much else. But you're seeing other places in the country where you got the... But now, here's what I was telling you and warning about last night as far as be prepared because it's going to look bad. So what have you had happen today? Well, you've had the NCAA basketball tournament not allowing any crowds at the games this year. I really don't know how that's going to work. I mean, the finals are in the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. I mean, that's a football stadium that seats 70,000 people. It's just mind-boggling to think of a basketball game. I mean, it's like a practice almost, even though it's real. But that be as it may, they're having the NCAA tournament, but no crowds. The NBA has put a hold on their season. I guess one of the players from Utah potentially has it. They stopped the game in midstream and shut it down. And the NBA pretty much quickly, at that point, just didn't cancel, just put a hold on the rest of their season. I think they got about anywhere from 12 to 13, 14 games left in the regular season, then the playoffs, but all that's on hold. We'll see what happens in hockey. A lot of your conference basketball tournaments in college are this weekend leading up to Selection Sunday on Sunday afternoon or on Sunday evening for the NCAA tournament. And you've got your major conferences like the Big Ten and the Big 12, and it looks like all they're going to be playing their conference games starting. I guess some of them start today actually, but they'll get into full swing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All those games are going to be played without a crowd, no spectators. Looks like the XFL, which is that new winter football league started by Vince McMahon. You know, if you're a football junkie, it's something to watch on the weekends. If you don't have anything else to watch, it's somewhat entertaining. Seattle's has a ban on gathering, so I guess they're playing that game without fans. But it looks like the rest, all the games looks like at this point are on. Doesn't look like there's any kind of a banning of their crowds. So you've got a lot, and of course you got a lot of cancellation. A lot of colleges are canceling all in-person classes. There's a lot of schools now are shutting down for temporary. So you got a lot of this, and like I told you last night, these are the kind of things. Once you start disrupting just the normal ebb and flow of daily life, that's what gets people all nervous. I still haven't figured out the toilet paper problem yet. So far in Florida, we're not having an issue, but we're not having a problem here in Florida. But I know in certain places, especially up north, they're having to run. Last I checked, this is like a bronchial, kind of a breathing type of a virus. I don't think it's like a gastronomical virus. I don't know. I don't know what the toilet paper thing is other than just, I don't know. I really don't know. The Purell thing, I guess, but last I checked, as long as you got hot water coming out of your faucet and you got a bar of soap, least that's what I used to use as Purell when I was growing up. Still, yeah, never used Purell. Sorry, I might be an evil person. Uh, but all this collectively, and then you've got the irresponsible media. Let me save them for a second, because I need to talk about this from a political standpoint and a fiscal standpoint. But as far as just the whole issue in general, it's exactly what I told you last night. I believe in my heart of hearts we are on the downside of this. However, the manifestation of the fullness of this has not yet been fully realized. That's what you're seeing now. That's why I warned you last night. Even though I'm telling you we're on the downside, get ready to be scared a little bit. Get ready to see some things that are going to look like the world's getting ready to end and life as we know it. Just understand that that's just the natural playing out of the whole thing. And by the way, like I've told you from day one, I am sick and tired of the focus on the number of people infected. That number at the end of the day, I hate to say it, is pretty much meaningless, because 99.9% plus of those people are going to recover. Yet, and for pure fear factor, for pure political reasons, that is the number that all the media is totally focused on. How many people are being infected? To date, we've had 38 people die. And a third of those were in that one nursing home in Washington. Again, this is an issue that seems to be not affecting children at all. Healthy people are getting it and recovering from it, just like they do the flu every year. Get 9 million people on the slow flu season that get the flu. 26,000 on a slow season die from the flu. Okay? Fractions. And the same at-risk people that end up dying from the flu are the same people we're dealing with here. If you're over 60, especially if you're a smoker, especially if you've got other existing health conditions, asthma, diabetes, cancer is, of course, is a big one, but any kind of bronchial or asthmatic type of conditions, you are the type of person that needs to stay home. Don't go out. You're the one that is number one at risk to catching it, and you're the one at risk. If anybody's going to die, you're the one. That's a fraction of a percent. And I'm not minimizing anybody's life. Trust me, you know me better than that. But that's where the hysteria on this is getting blown out, because they are not focused on how many people. 330. You had over 1,000 people die with the swine flu in 2009 before the Obama administration even acknowledged it existed. I didn't see basketball games being canceled, stock market tanking. Of course, the world had a better hold on it, really, than we did at that time. And that's part of the problem with this, is it's a worldwide issue, which puts us in a little bit of a precarious situation, because we are a free, open nation of 330 million people. People in and out. But again, the number to understand is not the number of infected. It's the number of people die. And then when you get that number, you really need to understand who are these people that are dying. And it becomes very apparent. Elderly, sick already with other issues. That puts this whole thing in a much better perspective. Healthy people that get it are just like healthy people get the flu every year. And let me just say this right now. Rather than saving this for the end, let me just say this now. And don't minimize that this is happening like almost immediately after I declared late last year, we are in a post-God, post-Christian nation. We've been in a post-church nation for a while now. And if you've been a viewer of this program for any period of time, I've been talking about these things now for, 17 years, to be honest with you. But we're, as we are falling deeper into the spiritual abyss, on top of everything else, none of these things happen by accident. And I don't think you can ignore the fact that God's maybe trying to get somebody's attention with all this. Of course, that'll never be mentioned. Because if you say that kind of thing, oh, you're a nutbag. You're one of those morons that doesn't believe in evolution and thinks the Earth's 6,000 years old, and you still believe the Earth is flat, and you believe a book of fables. You're mocked and ridiculed if you even suggest maybe there is really a God, and maybe there is a God, and this might not be the total reason, but I don't think you can ignore that nothing happens by accident or coincidence, right? And you're dealing with a God that maybe wants to try to wake some people up. Maybe, I'll tell you what, it's certainly a lot more of a legitimate thought to process and to explore than most of the other things that they're talking about on this idiot, situation, where that they've turned totally political now. And let me just hit that real quick. The coronavirus now is going to be again. I'll be the first one on Monday night. Should God wake me up on Monday and have me do the show Monday night, I will be the first one on Monday night to say I was wrong if there is a debate between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders on Sunday night. I'll be the first one. I cannot believe for a second that debate's going to happen. They've already gotten rid of the crowd because of coronavirus. And I can see the coronavirus now being the sole reason to basically put Joe Biden on ice. He will do pre-packaged, pre-prepared softball interviews with some friendly media. If he is anywhere, it'll be before a camera in a quick 2 to 3 minute statement on something. They have the perfect excuse to bury him. And can I just say something from a purely political standpoint, please? Let me take my evangelist Bill Keller hat off for a second, my pastor Bill hat off for a second, and just say this about Bernie Sanders. He is about the most gutless communist, socialist, Marxist, rebel that I've ever seen in my life. They jobbed him in 2016, and he went whimpering away with some private jet flights to campaign for Hillary, and he ended up getting a summer house out of the deal. Okay? I don't know what they're going to buy him off with this time, but I thought, honestly, at 1 o'clock, he was all ready to throw it in. He says he's not, but here's another thing. He's got a wounded dog as an opponent. Politics isn't beanbags. I'm sorry. It is a nasty world. It is an inherently evil world. You've got a wounded dog, and Bernie Sanders refuses to go after a wounded dog. Now it's like, well, that takes class. It's politics. You think any of these people have any standards? You don't go to those heights of politics with standards. It's like, it reminds me of John McCain in 2012 going against Barack Obama, or 2008 going against Barack Obama. Even Romney in 2012. If Romney went after Obama half as hard as he goes after his own president, he might have actually become president. And McCain's another one. They think they're like, they stand for these noble purposes, yet you have the Obama campaign trashing both of them like they were dogs. That's politics. And all I got to say, and I'll get off this rant by just saying Bernie Sanders is the most gutless, spineless, revolutionary, Castro-loving, commie-loving, Marxist-loving, socialist-loving I've ever seen in my life. And he's going to go whimpering away just like he did in 2016. They'll pay him off in some way. The media is just beyond disgusting. I really thought, in all honesty, when they were actually sticking up for that Soleimani, the dead Iranian terrorist that was responsible for killing hundreds of U.S. troops, maiming thousands. He was the creator of the roadside IUD. So evil that at the end he was even making them out of plastic so our minesweepers couldn't find them. Only God knows the limbs and the eyes and the hearing of U.S. soldiers that this man was responsible for. Yet when President Trump pulled the trigger, had him taken out, you had the media actually at some point sympathizing with this dead terrorist. That's how sick they are. And I really didn't think it could get any worse, but you can't say never, because they are literally rooting for a killer virus to do what they've been unable to do for 3 years, and that's take out President Trump. They have made no bones about it. If the economy goes in the toilet and tens of millions of people suffer financially, oh well. If they would love nothing more than to see a nationwide pandemic break out with thousands of people actually dying every day, because if you listen to them, that's what you would think is happening. They would be fine with that. If at the end of the day it gets rid of Donald Trump as president, they're fine with that. It is beyond disgusting. And listen, I was not a fan of the policies of President Obama. Didn't agree with hardly anything he did. He was an evil man in terms of he worked for 8 years against the cause of Christ in this country and Christians. That's a fact. Still prayed for him every day because that's what the Bible told me to do. When we did hit some real difficult times with the swine flu, for instance, backed off a lot of the political stuff. Let's get through this. But and lastly, and I'll get off this topic because I've got a bunch of other things to talk about. But lastly, we are now correctly, which I think we should have been doing all along, identifying this not as a coronavirus, but as the Wuhan coronavirus, because it came from China. China's actually out there saying it came from the U.S. Can you believe that? The audacity? And yet if we correctly identify where this came from, you've got a media. Here you go, the media. Well, that's racist. That's xenophobic. Trump hates foreigners. And all he's doing is calling it what it is. So, all I will tell you is pray. Keep praying. Understand that, and I may be wrong, but I really don't think so. We are on the downside of this. I think we're still in, like I told you last night, for some real pain the rest of the month in terms of it's really going to look bad. It's not going to look any better for quite a while. But I think by the end of this month, we're going to start seeing the hype and the hysteria start to wane a little bit. I believe by the time we get into the first week of April, it's going to become less and less of an issue. I could see the month of April being a month where we get a lot of things back to quote-unquote normal. And I fully believe by the end of April, going into May, the markets are going to be rebounding in a major way. Major way. I've never given financial advice. I'm certainly not going to start tonight because that's not what I do. But there's a lot of stocks that people really wanted to buy, but they were afraid because they were all at record highs. Well, not many of them are anywhere near record highs anymore. There's a lot of cheap stocks out there that are going to come roaring back. Just stop it right there. 350 Nigerian Christians have been slaughtered in just the first 2 months of this year. And people have emailed, why you keep talking about it? Somebody's got to talk about it, and something's got to be done. It is just incomprehensible to me. And the Nigerian government just doesn't seem to care. They just don't want to get into a war with the Muslim factions in Nigeria, and they're just basically ignoring the absolute wanton slaughter of Christians in Nigeria. There's been some attempts by a few more high-profile Christians in the last couple of months to bring this issue to attention. It almost has to be something that's going to happen at the highest pinnacles of our government, like probably like in the State Department, to start making demands on the Nigerian government in regard to just turning a blind eye to this. But it is really disgusting. It's happening with just, I mean, there's literally no attempt to even slow it down. And the Nigerian government has just literally just closed their eyes. They don't even respond to it anymore. So we'll continue to pray for our brothers and sisters in Christ in Nigeria, and pray that it really is going to take see, here's another thing. The UN is absolutely, they should blow those buildings up in New York, turn it into a parking lot. If they want to keep a UN, let them ship it over to Europe or somewhere. Let the globalists over there have it. We need to get out. Quit paying oh my goodness, the billions we throw away every year at the UN. It is an absolute globalist, anti-Semitic, anti-American organization, and it's truly anti-Christian too. I mean, you would hope that in a crisis like in Nigeria, the UN might have something to say. But it's like in Egypt, where they burned down all the Coptic Christian churches and ran them all out of Egypt, slaughtered those who wouldn't leave, and the rest had to flee for their life. UN didn't do a darn thing. Didn't do anything as Christians were being slaughtered in Syria, in Iraq. Doing nothing with the Christians being slaughtered by Boko Haram in Nigeria and some of these African nations right now. Absolutely worthless organization. And that's why really the only answer at all to this would be the United States government, the State Department. Okay, let's see. Minneapolis, home of the wonderful Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, whose real name isn't Omar, it's Elmi, who really is still in Congress, but really should either be in a jail cell for immigration and IRS fraud, or at least shipped out of this country, because she's here illegally. Yeah, she's a congresswoman. Some of these things are just beyond my comprehension. How does that happen? How does nobody do anything? They've got the documents, they've got sworn testimony, they've got the actual physical documents for immigration and IRS and everything. Blatantly, what have I always told you? White collar crime is always the easiest to prosecute because you don't even really need witnesses. You don't need witnesses. The documents are the witnesses. IRS fraud. You either signed the tax form or you didn't. If you signed it under penalty of perjury. I hope you know that. Which means you're attesting that the information you put on that form is accurate to the best of your ability. And if they prove you basically filed a bogus tax return and you signed it, that's a crime. There's no explanation for it. It's like bank fraud. When you file a loan application with fraudulent information and then you sign it, you knew that information was fraudulent when you put it down there, and then you signed it anyway. You don't need, this isn't an OJ who done it. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. It's not all that. It's really cut and dry, literally black and white. Did you sign that bank loan form? Yes or no? Yes. Is the information on that form accurate? Yes or no? No. You signed it anyway? Yes. You signed it anyway, knowing that information was not accurate, right? Yes. And of course you could say no, but you signed it. IRS, same thing. And of course, most tax evasion is people just didn't even file. Did you file a tax return for the last 10 years? Yes or no? No. By the way, I'm not here to give investment advice, certainly not here to give legal advice, and you should check with your lawyer. Don't take my word for it. But last I checked, if you owe the IRS, say $20,000, file your form on time, sign it. Filing is what will put you in jail. Not paying is not going to put you in jail. You can work that out after the fact. So people think, I owe the IRS $20,000, but I haven't got $20,000. I just won't file. No. Wrong mentality. Now, once you file, they're going to come looking for you. But if you're looking to eliminate any criminal exposure, i.e., go to jail, file the stupid thing. And again, I'm not here to dispense legal advice, but I'll tell you this right now, and you go check with a lawyer. Don't take my word for it. But if you haven't filed for the last 3 years, I would really encourage you to go sit down with a CPA and go file those things. Even if you owe them a bunch of money. Again, owing them money is not going to put you in jail. Not filing is what will put you in jail. Income tax evasion is not paying what you owe them. Income tax evasion is not filing. And again, I understand all of the issues that filing and not being able to pay will present, but you know what? Those are a lot better issues to deal with than dealing with not filing and looking at going to jail for income tax evasion. That literally is what income tax evasion is. If you owe them $1 million, file it. They can't put you in jail because you owe them $1 million. They can put you in jail if you don't file. And again, don't take my word for it, please. Go talk to a lawyer. And let me tell you something else. Because of the federal freeze on hiring and all that kind of stuff, the IRS is a federal agency. They don't have the manpower to chase everything down. And they're very willing to work with people. They've been a very willing mode to work with people. And you don't need to pay one of these tax firms thousands of dollars either. You can do it yourself. They're not hard to work with either, to be blunt with you. They're not like Guido, that's going to come with 3 8-foot monsters and break your kneecaps. Matter of fact, if you're in a jam financially, they'll work with you. And in a lot of cases, if you can work a deal out, they'll settle with you for 10 cents on the dollar. I mean, you can't be sitting on piles of money in real estate and everything else and then claim you can't pay them. But if you're truly having some issues and you're not in a good place and you just want to get things cleaned up, I can't believe I'm saying this about the IRS. They are not bad to work with. Just saying. Now, this comes from somebody who had my ministry audited 7 years of the 8 years Obama was in office. That, of course, was, I'm sure, just a anomaly. Not sure that was just coincidental, right? And it was just a hassle. Cost the ministry probably $3,000 to $4,000 every year in accounting fees just to go in and sit with them and show everything was right. So I'm no fan of the IRS, but I guess maybe that's my public service announcement for the night. Time magazine fading, done, like all magazines out. They're gone. They just don't know it yet, but they're trying to remain relevant. They retroactively named the 1925. This whole thing made no sense to me. Still doesn't, but whatever. They came out with a retroactive 1925 Woman of the Year edition, and their 1925 Woman of the Year retroactively was good old Margaret Sanger. The daughter of eugenics. Using using breeding to get rid of the black race. And then, of course, her main tool to make sure the black race was gone once and for all was the wonderful use of abortion, because she considered blacks human weeds. Yeah, there's your 1925 Woman of the Year, according to Time magazine. Oh, and she was big with the KKK, too. In 1938, she was the feature speaker at the KKK annual convention. This woman is just if you want to talk about, the spawn of Satan, boy, you got it with Margaret Sanger. Of course, ultimately, her organization evolved into what we know of today as that wonderful altruistic organization, Planned Parenthood. Time magazine, just shut it down. And that's kind of sad too, because I remember back in the 80s, back when I was living my other life before God got my attention. Yeah, every week, at Time, Newsweek, U.S. News and World Report, right? I mean, if you're in business, of course, then you had the business magazines. But those publications are just done. Bradley Manning, and just for the record, I will never call Bradley Manning by the name he wants to be known by. Bradley Manning, if you don't remember, let me refresh your memory. This was a young man who chose to engage in perverted, unnatural, unhealthy sex with other young men in the Army over in Afghanistan. And he was some sort of an IT specialist, stole millions of files and gave them to WikiLeaks, which WikiLeaks published. Files that were incredibly damaging to the United States government. How some low-level IT guy had the ability to access those files. I believe, if I remember correctly, they changed a lot of their security clearances so those type of people can't get it. And of course, it came out that the whole reason that he did this was because he didn't feel that the Army was treating gay men fairly. Listen, one of the best things that the president did was stop this whole situation where you have mentally ill people who don't even know what gender they are being part of the military. The military's got enough issues of its own without having people that have a legitimate mental illness already. And if you don't know whether you're a boy or a girl, you are mentally ill, my friend. Sorry, that's just reality. But Bradley Manning, he gets hit for, didn't get hit for treason, which he should have. He should have really, Bradley Manning shouldn't even be in the news today. He should have got a blindfold and a cigarette and been shot at sunup, as all treasonous individuals should be. But they hit him with some other charges and gave him a 35-year sentence in Leavenworth. Well, he had no sooner gotten to Leavenworth than he decided, you know what? I'm not really a boy. I want to be a girl. And he basically milked the military to get him to pay, to get them to pay for all of his transitioning drugs, and I don't know, I think he had some kind of surgery at some point, so Bradley could transition to become his girl name. And I'm not even going to, you know what? I will never stop calling him Bradley, and I will never call him by that girl name, because he's not a girl. No matter what drugs he takes, no matter what surgeries he has, he was born a male by God. He will die a male by God, and he can call himself whatever he wants. He can cut himself up however he wants. He can take whatever drugs he wants. He will always be a male. All right? That's fact. And these are the people that condemn people like me. Well, you're anti-science. If you believe in the Bible, you're anti-science. You think there's 3,492 different genders, and you're calling me anti-science? Are you kidding me? Really? You won't even admit that a living human being inside of a woman is a living human being. And you call me anti-science? Really? Anyway, good old President Obama commuted his sentence at the end of, I think, 6-7 years, let him out. And of course, he went out, he ran for Congress, didn't go anywhere. There was the photo of him standing on some ledge talking about jumping. And again, that's not a surprise, because if you don't even acknowledge what gender you are, you have a mental health issue. I'm sorry. And he did different things to try to keep himself in the news. And then it was uncovered that the United States is trying to extradite Julian Assange back to the United States on espionage charges and for publishing classified information on WikiLeaks. Now, we can have the argument about, the Pentagon Papers and whether he's a publisher, whether he's a news organization. We can have that argument. But just put that aside. As part of the Assange case, part of it was, of course, the role that Bradley Manning played, because Bradley Manning stole classified military documents electronically, gave them to WikiLeaks. So, of course, as part of whatever trial Julian Assange is going to face when he's ultimately extradited here, which I believe he probably will be, Bradley Manning's going to be a witness. So they called him before the grand jury to testify, and he refused to testify. So the judge put up with him for about a day and a half and threw him in jail. He said, fine, when you're ready to testify, you can get out. So he's been there probably about a year now. And of course, he's a martyr, and he wants everybody to feel sorry for him, and blah, blah, blah. He must like jail because all he has to do is go testify. And he's in jail because he chose to be in jail. Anyway, so I guess last night he tried to kill himself. Of course, he didn't. And, but this is so much of what we're watching right now is just the result of a culture that has lost its connection with God and is just out of control. There has to be legitimate steps taken to confront this coronavirus, the Wuhan virus, and we are doing that. The hysteria, as I've shared before, the fear, as I've shared before, is because we have a nation that doesn't believe in God anymore. Doesn't put their faith and trust in God anymore. So when something comes up that they don't have control over and they don't understand, fear is a natural response. We got a nation that embraces mentally ill people as heroes because they don't even know what gender they are. It's insanity. We've got a media that has absolutely rejected anything to do with God, mocks and demeans anybody who does. So is it any wonder they're totally useless, other than strictly as a propaganda tool? The media here is no different than propaganda media in other countries. Just so happens during this current period, their propaganda is aimed at the government, whereas 8 years prior it was aimed for the government. But it's no longer media, it's pure propaganda. And we've got an individual running for the highest office in the land, the most powerful position in the world, who can't even stand for 5 minutes and give a coherent statement. And all you need to know about the whole propping up of Joe Biden, 2 months ago, he wasn't written off as dead by any political observer. He was written off as dead by his own party. So why now all of a sudden the 360-degree switch? Because they couldn't have a communist leading the party, and they had nobody else. So they had to suck it up, dust him off, put a hand up his back like, all good ventriloquists do. And the way this is all an Obama production, he went out this week and pretty much laid out who he wants to be in his cabinet. Wow, what a shock. They're all Obama people, all the same crew that were just dumped out of office 4 years ago. So we've got a nation that is in real crisis on so many fronts, and the reason it's in crisis, if we were a nation still honored and revered God, we would all be pulling together and we wouldn't be out buying toilet paper by the truckload. We would be putting our faith and trust in God. We'd be having prayer meetings all over the country, and we would do what we needed to do from a physical standpoint. We would get through this coronavirus, and there wouldn't be the mass hysteria. If we were still a nation that honored God, we wouldn't be putting mentally ill people up as role models. If we were still a country that honored and loved God, we wouldn't have a culture that was leading the nation into the spiritual abyss at a lightning speed right now. All right, if if you've never made a decision for Jesus before we get out of here tonight, I want to give you that chance right now, because there is only one real decision we make in this life that's going to matter when it's all said and done. And we're all going to take our last breath. Nobody can not acknowledge that. The only question is, what happens? Well, if you believe the Bible, you're going to stand before God, and you're either going to go to heaven or hell. And the only thing that's going to determine that, only one thing determines that. Not how many checks you wrote to a church or how much good works you did, because there's no amount of money you could ever pay for salvation. There's no amount of good works you could ever do to earn salvation. It simply boils down to you. Have you made a decision to accept Christ as your Savior by faith? And that's a choice only you can make. If you want to make it now, pray with me. Dear Lord, I come to you this night asking you to forgive me of all my sins. I acknowledge my sins tonight, Lord, and ask your forgiveness. And Lord, tonight I believe in my heart and confess with my mouth that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. From this moment forward, I will live for you now and forevermore. My life is yours. And I will live for you from this day forward. In Jesus' name I pray. My friend, if you made that decision, if you meant it, the Bible says you're saved, not because of some words, but because your faith in God's grace. Have a book I'll send you. It won't cost you anything. I'll pay the postage. Just drop me an email, bkellerliveprayer.com. And if you need prayer for anything, don't hesitate to email me, okay? Love and care about you. Have a great night tonight, Lord willing. See you back here in 23 short hours. God bless you.
What problems are you dealing with in your life right now?
Do you feel like giving up? Times are hard and you're not strong. Well, I know the answer for you, and it will